Excellent. So good morning and welcome to today's webinar. Today what we'll do is we'll talk about a few ideas in terms of how to kind of look to optimize your network. Now, the one thing to note about network optimization is it can come in a few different formats. It really depends on your intended goals. So it could be an end-to-end process or a workflow, or it could be as specific as a configuration change and updates within your environment. So today, what we'll want to do is we'll take a look at a few ideas that can help you get on the right track. And for those who are doing some of these ideas already, we want to emphasize how important it is to maintain these practices and ensure that those who you're working with or those people who are on your team are doing so as well. So why do we want to optimize and look to optimize our networks? Well, the easy and the short answer is networks are not necessarily a monolith, right? They're complex with the increase in technological advances, increase in the workforce, and increase in data growth. We need to be able to kind of support that growth. So we can either roll with the times or we can either fall behind the line. So my name is Kevin Jackson. I'm the technical solutions consultant from Help Systems by way of the Intermapper product. And well, today I'll be your presenter and kind of go through a couple of different best practices that we came up with. And hopefully this can provide you with some additional insight. Our agenda today is we'll talk about some of the things that can cause network outages and what the cost of a network outage potentially could be. Now that's very important to note because network outage, that's a huge impact on the end user as well as the business brand. We talk about how to optimize network performance, and then we'll look at the proactive solution, a network monitoring solution like the Intermapper software. We'll take a look at a live demo of the application, just to kind of show a few things about the application, and then take some questions thereafter if we still have some time. I do have a couple of polling questions that I want to open up towards the end of the presentation. So if you do have time, I'll open that up to the audience, and you can kind of give us some feedback there. And if you have any questions, please send those questions within the questions window. Thank you. So what causes network outages? So there's a few things that we can kind of kind of zero in on in terms of what can potentially cause a network outage within your environment. And the first thing kind of pointed. And let's just say that every survey that has been taken, a larger percentage of what causes network outages was always kind of a human error. And human error could be a little bit of everything. It could be just as simple as unplugging a cable or patching in the wrong port, or shutting down the wrong device, or something more catastrophic. So, if you've been in the IT space, and I've been in the space for about 15 years, I'm pretty sure that I've unplugged a couple of devices in my time. So I'm sure we've all probably have done this at some point in our career. Environmental factors is something that oftentimes is neglected. We don't necessarily think about because this is the equipment that's kind of running in the background. But these things can cause havoc on your network infrastructure. So if there's an environmental condition failure within your data center, this can have real potential impact on your equipment. For instance, if your HVAC goes down, now there's heat kind of in that server room. Your servers can get overheated and things can happen. So environmental factors can cause network outages in a big way. Configuration issues. So again, this kind of ties in with a little bit with the human error, because we do control the configuration of these devices, and depending on how our network is laid out, oftentimes we're making different configuration changes. So it could be a difference between an octet on an IP or some type of variable. So configuration issues, if a device is not properly configured, network performance issues can occur there. And then last but not least, the lack of visibility into your network. And again, if you look at some of the surveys within the industry, about 40% of network professionals have indicated that lack of network visibility is something that they are looking to improve upon. It's something that they don't necessarily currently have, but it's something that they need to improve upon. Now, it's very difficult to fix something that you don't have any visibility over, right? It prevents you from determining where the issues and the causes of those outages arise. So it's kind of very important to kind of have that network visibility. So what's the cost of network outage? And there's a lot of large brands that have had some recent outages, and some large brands who've had some outages in the past that has some financial impacts and also other impacts on their business. So again, it's not just the financial impact on the business, but also it's the impact on the reputation as well. So there's been multiple surveys and studies that have shown that have been done over the years to try to pin what the financial impact has attributed to the network outages, and from the cost to fix to revenue loss to productivity loss. So one study was done a few years ago by the Meta Group, and they do some contingency planning, and what they came up with was what the network downtime and latency cost to each one of these businesses were, and they basically outlaid it by industry. So if you look at the different industries, and the brokerage is huge because that's kind of sits in the financial space, you can see that there's a large impact on each one of these different industries. And if you're a business that falls within that industry, that downtime impact could be the difference between a gain and a huge loss within your environment, and possibly some financial impact on the back end. So also the Gartner Group, actually reported or made a claim that large enterprises experience close to about 90 hours of downtime a year, and that estimated that the loss of revenue is about $4 million as a result. So larger enterprises might have more of a cushion to take those losses, but if you're a small company and you are, losing $90,000 an hour for a small media company, can be the difference between, kind of keeping the lights on. So the bottom line is network outage is highly impactful, not just to the reputation, not just financially, but also to the folks who are working in the IT department, because it squarely falls on their shoulders. So we're trying to see if we can avoid that as much as possible. So how do we look to optimize our network performance? So there's a number of different ways that you can potentially optimize your network performance, and we want to take a look at a few of these directives. And what we want to do is we want to first consider a few things before we get started. And then the next step is kind of looking at additional directives that we can kind of put into practice. So before we get started, what we want to consider is we want to look on our network as a whole, and then we want to determine which devices are most important to our operation. All right, we want to identify those core infrastructure right out the bat, and make sure that we know and have records of those devices. Then the next thing that kind of follows that up is, what metrics do I want to monitor? What metrics do I want to keep an eye on? Because again, different devices can provide you with different performance metrics. So we want to be able to kind of standardize that a little bit and see what we can do there. And then we want to be able to optimize that performance for our business needs. Every business is different. Every business requirements are different. if you are in a financial industry, that means you have high transactional data. That means that bandwidth performance and uptime is of the utmost importance, as opposed to if you're maybe in some other industry where you know what you can the transaction of data is not as great. If there's some type of latency within your environment, that's acceptable and understandable. So you can deal with that. So you have to know what your business needs are, and then you have to know how you can optimize that equipment to fit those and suit those business needs. And then last but not least, you want to ask yourself that question: do I currently have a tool that I can use to do some in-depth monitoring? Do I have a tool I can use to kind of give me the feedback that I require and that I need? So one of the most important things, and I think this is at times understated, and I've been in situations where we've kind of run into issues that fits this scale, is we want to be able to maintain an up-to-date inventory of our devices and connections. And notice that I said not just devices, but also the connectivity, the connections. Because times, we know what the devices are doing, but we don't know how those devices are connected and where they're going. Right. So you can't optimize your or monitor your network resources that you have no idea or you are not aware of. So we want to make sure that we're in the know, and we want to make sure that we have an idea of what hardware is present within our network. And it's not just the hardware, it's the software that we need to be cognizant of and aware of. And we need to kind of figure out who's using what software, so we can do that by individual departments. So what hardware is present in your network? You want to kind of keep an eye on the servers, the different server types, whether they're virtual, whether they're cloud-based, whether they're physical servers. You want to kind of have an idea of what each one of those servers are doing, where they are, where they sit, routers, firewalls, etc. You want to understand what make and model of your routers and firewalls, what their capabilities are, and what their limitations are. Switches, whether you're running layer 2, whether you're running layer 3, you want to kind of see are your switches intelligible, and if they're not, you want kind of look to improve upon that, and kind of get a standard there, a baseline there. And then what software is running on your network, so you can standardize the software a little bit more, so you're not looking in 30 different places, or having 30 different ways to support different types of software applications, making sure that those applications or the software running on those boxes are up to date and patched accordingly. And then which department owns the assets. This is just from an inventory standpoint. This is just something smart and intelligent that you can do. So it's very important that you kind of maintain that inventory of your devices and connections, so you know exactly where things are. And then this gives you a better understanding of what you can do when things might not be working the way they're supposed to. We also want to be able to monitor for suspicious activities. This is also very important. So it's not just the physical threats, but also the threats that come under the hood, malware, viruses. These are things that are malicious and that can have some dire effects on your network. So you want to be able to have those anti-malware tools built into your maybe your security and your policies portfolio, so you know how to effectively use those tools, and also how to incorporate these tools with not just the software side, but also the hardware side as well. So big thing here is data breaches. Folks are consistently trying to hack into networks and steal data. So you have to have things in place that can protect your data from the outside intrusion, whether it's an intrusion detection prevention or intrusion prevention system, or just kind of lock down your protocols and your ports that are potential spots that can be hacked. Maybe just lock that down and keeping an eye on that. So detecting suspicious activity can really help you proactively address those malware attacks. And so you always have to be in the know in terms of what's going on in that part of the industry, because there's always different types of attacks, and these attacks are getting smarter. So it becomes more of a challenge to be able to to defend against them. So you also want to make sure that you have the proper tools and software in place to be able to defend against that. Now, the escalation procedures. So this is a very important approach. You have to have workflows and remediation procedures in place. You have to look to have escalation plans and resources that can quickly curb the downtime or the performance impact. And proactivity, having proactivity is the right solution, and you have to have that in place to have and to be your ultimate goal line defense. So having an escalation procedure is kind of the best course of action in terms of trying to identify that issue, and then making sure that that issue gets to the right place so it can be fixed and it can be addressed. So let's talk about some proactive network monitoring solution like the Intermapper software, and how Intermapper in its own right can address and help some of these issues. So what the Intermapper solution can provide for you is the real-time network monitoring. We provide you with that proactivity. We provide you with that network visibility. We provide you with the ability to go out there and identify what is sitting within your space. So you can do your discovery of your devices. You can see all the infrastructure that you might not necessarily been aware of, not just from the networking side, but also from the server side. So you can see all that information, you can get everything at a glance, and then you can start to kind of get the feedback that you require, that you need to make the necessary steps, whether it's mitigation, whether it's performance improvements, etc. So you want to be able to kind of leverage the right types of technologies to be able to, make your monitoring experience more efficient. The visual mapping is first and foremost, I think, because it gives you that visibility. The auto discovery features is really important because this allows you to go out there and identify everything that sits within your space, things that you don't necessarily know or know where they sit. Also, Layer 2 mapping is also unique, because what it can do, it can help you get a better understanding of how your network is laid out. So the Layer 2 function can show you, the interconnections between the Layer 2 switches, how they're, connected with each other, how endpoints are connected to their ports respectively. So it gives you an accurate depiction of your network from that perspective. And then you also want to be able to monitor your devices and your interfaces, the links on your devices, monitor traffic and utilization, be able to monitor whether there's drops or discards on those links, whether monitor errors if there's an issue on those interfaces. So you won't be able to, you want to be able to set thresholds and monitor that. Flows is an important technology depending on how your network is laid out and what devices you have in terms of support. This allows you to at least get a good understanding of bandwidth usage and utilization around your network. So, depending on how you're laid out, you can have flows being captured from your routers. You can have flows being captured from your firewalls or your switches, and that this gives you the information that you can determine. Okay, top talkers, top listeners, top application ports. So this is a very low level kind of approach to doing some security if you don't have something else in place. So at least you can kind of get an idea of where the traffic is going and where it's coming from. And then exception-based alerting allows you to kind of work and create these escalation procedures where you can set up different groups or different tiers of alerting sent based on the conditions of your devices and the status of your devices, so you can basically get the response, the desired response to the issues accordingly. And then some reporting tools. You want to be able to create some reports based on the data that you're currently capturing and you're currently monitoring. So this is something that Intermapper has all encompassing, and then can provide you with some initial feedback in terms of your network once you get it implemented, and then you can use this product to continue the monitoring effort. The one thing to note is Intermapper can also support SNMP monitoring, which is another kind of desired way, a protocol, and way of monitoring your infrastructure, because SNMP allows you to capture some really fruitful performance monitoring information about your devices. So very important that if you are looking at a monitoring solution, that it supports that as well. So what I'll do really quickly is show you a live demonstration of the product. Then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll take some questions. And if you have any kind of questions, comments, feedback, please feel free to send that to myself. Also, before we go into the demo, Intermapper has a free 30-day trial on our website. So I advise you to take advantage of it, get the product installed, and I guarantee you once you deploy the product, you'll start to see some fruitful information and probably things that you probably didn't know you had on your network. So give it a shot. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring up one of my Intermapper maps here. So this is just an example of my test network here in Eden Prairie. This map I created so I'm able to monitor my servers, my infrastructure, switches, routers, firewalls, etc. You can see that this map provides you with that a live look at these devices. You can see the traffic on these interfaces. You can see the conditions of the devices, and then you can drill down into the affected devices to see exactly what's going on. So if I want to look at my status, Intermapper will tell me exactly why my device is in an alarm state, so I can go ahead and look to do some mitigation there. We can create real-time charts. So if I want to take a look at one of my devices here, I can create a chart, a real-time chart of a couple of interfaces here that I'm working with. So I have two interfaces that I'm charting right now, and I can see how these interfaces are trending against each other. I can see if there's any spikes or any anomalies that I need to be aware of. So I can add and I can create real-time strip charts to show the conditions and show the results of what I'm currently monitoring, different data sets that's important to me. So what I'll do really quickly is I'm going to show you how I can create a new map. So there's a few different ways that you can do things. You can insert either a device, or you can insert a subnet. So if I want to scan a specific subnet, I can do that. So this is a Class C subnet, and I can run my scan. I can tell Intermapper how long to poll my devices. I can poll them every 30 seconds. I can poll them every minute. And then I can tell Intermapper what to scan. If I just want to see IP-enabled and pingable devices, I can do that. Or if I just want to see those intelligible SNMP-enabled devices, I can do that as well. I can do a range. So if I want to see the first 12 or first 20 devices on a subnet, I can create that range as well. And I can run my scan. And Intermapper has one of the faster polling engines and scanning functions out there on the market. So we can build the map out and bring devices into the product fairly quickly. So once I'm done with my scan, we can do different things to the map. We can do some formatting. Let me go ahead and There we go. We can do some formatting. So this is your logical layer 3 diagram. So Intermapper creates a layer 3 diagram on our initial scan. And then from here, you can essentially lay the map out however you want. We have built-in formatting and icons into the product. So you can use what we have built in. You can you can import your own icons into the product. So you can essentially lay out your network however you want and have the look and feel of what you want. If you want to use icons, you can update and use icons. You can use our built-in icons that we have. Depending on what the device is, you can import your own icons. You can import background images. You can overlay an office floor plan on top of your map. So you have the full kind of flexibility and the ability to create your visuals however you want. And then once you've created that, that's kind of what you work with. And then still be able to get the performance information from the map as well. So we're still getting our performance data. We're still monitoring your network and giving you that feedback. Okay. So that's how easy it is to create the map, and then you can kind of outlay your map however you want, and then kind of use that going forward. So before I forget, I wanted to open up the poll, and the first question of the poll is, how important is network visibility to your day-to-day operation? So I'm just going to launch that poll question, so everyone should be able to see it. So if you can take a look, I give you a few seconds. Excellent. And then the second poll question is, do you currently have a network monitoring or management tool that can provide you with the mapping and monitoring capability? So I'll open up that poll as well. All right, great. Thank you for the response. So again, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please feel free to contact me. Let me know. And I do advise that if you haven't downloaded the product, go on our website, download, trial uh, the software, and let us know what you think. Any other questions? All right, guys, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Take care.